We are back here at the Trensetta Lounge. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Simmons, your host of the Trensetta Lounge, and today I'm just so excited to introduce to you all a true trendsetter, an icon in the making, and just a one-of-a-kind fashion designer. She is empowering and transforming and connecting women through design. I actually had the opportunity of meeting this young lady while I was living in New York City, and I'm so happy to have her on the show today. So without further ado, the one and only Miss Jamila. Welcome to the show, Jamila.
Hi, Tammy. So excited. Thanks so much for interviewing me today.
Yes, we are so happy to have you here. And so I just have to ask, do a quick check-in. How are you doing today?
I am doing good. This year has been really challenging, but I think it's been one of my most recent years of the most growth. I believe everything happens for a reason, and I'm really excited to see what happens next year with my career and with my brand and just life in general.
Well, I'm going to just start off with the obvious. You're a Midwest gal, you're from Ohio, and you are living on the East Coast in New York City, New York. When did you decide to make that move to New York, Jamila?
So about 4 years ago, I graduated from college, the University of Cincinnati in Ohio. I studied fashion design, and as you know, Ohio really isn't a fashion state to be in, so I always knew I wanted to move to New York post-graduating. So I gave all my family and friends a heads up. I graduated in May and moved to New York the next month. So it was a really fast transition. But I knew New York is where I needed to be for my career.
So just looking back on when you first decided to make that move to New York City, I mean, it had to be a very scary decision for you. What do you remember going through your mind when you were making that decision?
So luckily, throughout my college curriculum, I was required to do 5 internships before I graduated. 3 of them I chose to do in New York. So I had been living in New York off and on every other semester prior to actually moving here permanently. So New York it wasn't anything too new to me. I also had friends that had graduated before me that moved here. I have family here. So it was definitely scary because it was a permanent decision. But again, I felt kind of acclimated to make that decision because I had been here before.
Okay, and so you're also a twin. Now, are you all identical or fraternal? Because I'm a twin, and I know that was something we talked about when we first met, so.
In power, we're actually fraternal, but a lot of people think we're identical because we have really similar personalities. We dress pretty similar, have the same twin or fraternal, right?
We're fraternal, and we ended up in the same industry, which I know you and your fraternal twin ended up in the same industry.
Yes.
And you're also co-directors with one another in your fashion brand, which I know we're going to get to later on in the interview.
Yeah.
But how does it feel to be a twin, you know, moving and thriving in the world of fashion? You know, you all ended up in the same industry. How does that feel to be a twin, you know, doing that together?
Yeah, it's actually funny because Maya originally wanted to be a perfume chemist, which is like completely different. Once she got to college and started her chemistry classes, she kind of realized she didn't want to be in a lab like for her whole career. And she always had that fashion interest like I did in the back of her mind, more with styling and selling clothes. So she did make that transition the first or second year of college, but it's actually funny because she did start off in chemistry and just quickly changed her mind. But I'm glad she made that decision. We bring different backgrounds with our fashion industry interests, which is really cool. It kind of makes us a good duo for our fashion brand. But it worked out perfectly because we ended up graduating at the same time. We moved to New York at the same time. Luckily, we found jobs around the same time. So it's just nice to have, as you know, it's wonderful to have a twin sister, but it's even better to kind of have the same interest and just be a support system for each other. And because we're in fashion, but different areas, we teach each other a lot about fashion, which is great. So it's kind of good to just have an extra eye to really just teach me different things I don't know, because I really love the design part. and she's more into the wholesale and the styling. So it's nice to piggyback off of each other.
Okay, so she's more the money, you're more the look and the feel and the aesthetics. Okay, I like that. Okay, so let's go back to your beginnings. When did you know that you wanted to get into the world of fashion?
Definitely in high school. We kind of talked a little bit about us both having an Ohio connection. I went to cyber school for the arts in Ohio, and I actually started off. So basically, you were required to have a magnet, which is kind of like a major in high school. I started off in piano, which is kind of random, just to kind of get into the school. And then I changed my magnet to be in visual arts, so drawing. And then it kind of transitioned into fashion illustration, and I got interested in sewing and kind of bringing those illustrations to life. So I would say definitely my junior year in high school.
We both originally met each other in New York City, which was at the Black Girls in Media Brunch and Meet and Greet. And for those who don't know, Black Girls in Media is a networking organization to connect women in media, minority women in media together. So I have to ask, because I know we're going to have a few people who tune in to this video who may want to know like how to build relationships and how to network. So how important is networking and relationship building to you and the industry that you work in?
It's so important. I would say that has to do with more than half of my success in the fashion industry. It's just, I mean, obviously it has a lot to do with perfecting your skill and, you know, studying and practicing different skills in whatever you do. But I would say it is about who you know a lot, especially the fashion industry. It is really small. You know, if you were in the medical field, that's a huge field that people are in globally, but fashion is very niche and is very small. So especially moving from Ohio, where there isn't really a fashion scene, moving to New York, networking is definitely what can get your foot in the door. It's so small, you meet someone that worked at somewhere where you interned and they have an opportunity for you, or they know someone in HR at a company and can give you their contact information.
Who or where do you draw your inspiration from for your fashion designs?
Yeah, so I kind of thought of two different muses that I look to. One would be Tracee Ellis Ross, who is an actress, if some of you guys don't know. Maybe I thought of her because I've been watching Girlfriends on Netflix a lot recently, but I've always just loved her. She has such an effortless style. I love how she really could switch it up. She'll wear like a sequin dress one day, and then she'll have on like a t-shirt and jeans and like Nike shoes. Like she could just wear everything. And I just love her personality. She's really personable. I love the background she comes from with her mom being Diana Ross, and I feel like I could kind of see her her mom's style influence in her modern day style and what she wears, which is really cool to see. Because I personally love fashion from the 60s and the 70s. Okay. Bell sleeves, wide leg pants, bright colors, and really just strong silhouettes. So she would be one. Solange, I love how unconventional her style is with her music and her clothing. And I just love she's really set her own lane for herself. Really the core of my brand, I would say the women who I aspire to wear my clothing are really strong-minded, they're really confident, and I really aspire to kind of come up with new ideas besides clothing, more how you market, how you choose your models, how you curate your Instagram. There's so many different techniques that you kind of have to be savvy on besides just designing.
You have the avant-garde styles, you have the minimalistic, you have the classic styles. So what would you say is your signature style?
I really love taking inspiration from the 60s and 70s. And that was definitely not a shy era of fashion whatsoever. Like the 90s was very minimalistic, a lot of white and black. I personally love strong silhouettes. bold colors. I think that looks the best personally, especially on women of color. So definitely bold, a little bit, you could say kind of groovy, like 70s, but with a modern spin on it.
Do you think it's necessary to have a degree to get into the fashion industry?
So I would say, I think for me, especially coming from Dayton, Ohio, where there aren't a lot of fashion opportunities, I did feel like I needed a degree to kind of give me a edge. Um, but then there's so many designers in New York and LA who have taken the fashion route without a particular degree, just kind of based on different opportunities they're presented with, different people they've networked with, which is really important. So I would say no. For me, I took that route because I felt like opportunities were so limited in Ohio, and I just needed to kind of stand out a little bit more.
And what would be 2 to 3 pieces of advice to those budding and aspiring folks who want to get into the fashion industry? What would you tell your younger self 10 years back when you first got into this industry?
I would say just do it. I don't want to steal Nike's slogan, but I just love that mantra because anytime you're feeling scared to put your creative, designs out there, or move to a different city, or say hello to someone at an event that you've been following on Instagram for years and never got to meet. It's just like you really have to just do it and put that fear aside, because next mantra would be you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if you don't do it, the opportunity is gone. And I mean, it's really simple. It's either you do it or you don't. Sometimes it is really about who you know. So put yourself out there, be friendly, and kind of meet people because you never know what you have to offer to them that they don't know about. So yeah.
So now we're going to talk about your new fashion line, which I hear we're getting an inside special look. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the pieces that you've brought on today's show for us.
I wanted to show this collection because it's really core to my brand aesthetic. Those bold colors I was talking about, the kind of wide leg pant silhouettes, the bell sleeves, and then I kind of put a twist on it with kind of modern fashion. I have some utility details with gold grommets. I have lace insets and kind of see-through sexy pants and tops to kind of tie back to it. So this first design on the left, I have this kind of asymmetrical neckline in this orange stretch lace top. It's a simple top, but it's really sexy with the see-through lace, and it's form-fitting, and it has that bright orange color that's really bold and makes a statement. And then I have some orange wide-leg culottes to go with it. And then to the right of that, I have a lace gown, again in that orange color, really elegant and kind of like a show-stopping dress. And then in the middle, I have olive green outfits. The top and the pant has this gold pretty grommet detail on the shoulder, which is what I'm wearing now. And then the pants have the grommets kind of going down the middle of the pants.
I also love your line because, like you said, it's so colorful, it's so sexy, it's a little bit of fun, it has a little bit of texture. So I definitely love that about your line. And also in the line, you also have some masks, which, I mean, nowadays nobody's outfit is fully complete without a mask, and it's definitely become that now staple piece. Can you speak on how important it is to pivot and to adapt with the times when it comes to producing and creating your different fashion designs?
Just another kind of conversational piece, not meeting as many people during the pandemic, but if you do, they're like, oh, where did you get that mask from? It's so cute. Who made it? Because it's not your typical blue surgical mask. Another thing I loved with making the mask is that I dyed all of the fabric myself. I made the patterns for the mask, and I actually sewed them myself. which was really great because it's a way to be sustainable.
Also, during this time of being quarantined, as a fashion designer, I have to ask, are there like 2 to 3 clothing items that you find yourself wearing a lot while hanging around the house?
It's funny because I really wasn't going too many places, but I would say just easy dresses, like knit dresses that I could just throw on, woven dresses that aren't too form-fitting.
If you could design like a clothing line for any dream client out there, who would it be? Do you have anyone in mind?
I would say Solange, which is one of my muses. I just love her style. I love her aesthetic. As I said before, she really has kind of like an unconventional style lane that she's kind of built for herself.
So there's this part of the show that we call I Got a Question. So I got a few questions for you, Jamila. So let me pull them up. Now you kind of answered one of my first ones, which is like, what are you watching nowadays? You said girlfriend. So if you could describe yourself in one emoji that you use on your phone, what would you describe, or what would be the emoji that you would use to describe yourself and why?
Dancer emoji in the red dress. Just because, you know, she has like a fashion outfit on and she's really lively and has a lot of expression. So yeah, I love that emoji.
Where can folks follow and stay up to date with all that you're doing?
So I have my personal page and my design page. So my personal page is Fashionista Mila. So fashion, ISTAMILA. And then my design page is the name of my brand, Jamila Mariama, JAMILA So everything I pretty much do is on there. I try to curate a nice page that has a good aesthetic, but then I also show a lot of behind the scenes with really what I'm doing in my personal life to just kind of keep everything authentic and personable. So yeah, and then I also have a website, JamilaMariama.com.
If you had to create a toolbox with different tools in it, like different, you know, maybe there's a book or maybe there's an app that you would suggest for someone to have in this hypothetical toolbox, what would be some of those tools that you would have?
Definitely a kind of like one-on-one toolbox for sewing and drawing. Just because those are like you don't have to know how to sew, you don't have to know how to draw to get your creative ideas across. But for me personally, especially working in the industry, those are kind of like two of the core skill sets that you kind of need to know going into the industry. And then I would say, especially with social media, it's really important for your brand, no matter what you're selling. If you're selling clothes, if you're selling accessories, food, it's like every single retail brand has a social media presence. Just because that's the way of the world. Everyone's on the internet. So I would say some type of social media marketing training.
It was such a pleasure to have you on here. Definitely a lot of education, a lot of inspiration.